Welcome everyone. خیلی خوش آمدید. من بین فارسی انگلیسی صحبت میکنم out of respect for David and Anne who are here and have accepted our invitation to be here. خیلی ازشون ممنونم که اینجا هستن. I met Anne at International Women's Organization that I go to at times, and so does she. And anyway, she started talking about her husband being an attorney, trust, wills, medical POA, and to me that became a very personal issue, and I thought about how much trouble any of us can go through living in America, that one day without realizing we're going to get basically sucked into the system, and we can definitely avoid it. And I invited him and Anne, and they accepted to come here and speak on this topic, which I think to me should be, you know, one of those topics that we should definitely pay attention to. من یه روزی این خانم انو توی یه ارگانیزیشن خانمایی هستش که ما جمع میشیم ماهی یه بار. من ایشون رو ملاقات کردم و در رابطه با شوهرشون صحبت کردن که کارهای تراست، به اصطلاح انحصار وراثت، وصیت‌نامه و کارهای به اصطلاح مدیکال پی او ای، تو فارسیش ببخشید نمیدونم چیه، ولی در رابطه با این چیزا داشتن صحبت میکردن و من از ایشون خواهش کردم که بیان صحبت بکنن، چون از اون موضوعی هستش که واقعا من فکر میکنم همه ما باید در آمریکا اطلاع داشته باشیم، به خاطر اینکه گیر میکنیم توی سری دادگاه‌های انحصار وراثت و بدون اینکه متوجه باشیم. ما از ایران که میایم فکر کنیم یه وصیت‌نامه کافیه یا چیزی که نیست، میدیم به بچه‌مون یا خودشون بعد حالا یه کاری میکنن، در صورتی که اینطوری نیست. نمیتونی همطوری فکر کنی که حالا اینا یه کاری میکنن، بعد میافتی توی داستان بوروکراسی و وکیل و دادگاه و این برنامه و خرجش زیاده. خیلی اینا رو میشه به اصطلاح جلوگیری کرد، پیشگیری کرد ازش. در نتیجه I invited attorney David Berzuski, and I'm so happy that he's here today. You have a long history, you can go over it. Like, he has high credentials, very high credentials, and I'm happy that you're here.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you everyone. Very briefly, by way of introduction, I lost my second career. I was a Wall Street guy for 20 years. First 10 years of that was at investment banks. I was a proprietary trader, working primarily initially in Eastern Europe, Middle East, and Africa for the first half of that time. And then the balance of that time I was just trading globally. And then the rest of my time on Wall Street, we started a hedge fund in the early 2000s. Again, about half of that was investing in emerging markets globally, and then the other half was G10 interest rate currency equities. Around 2008, I decided that working 100 hours a week, still being single, having not seen my parents for 20 years, it was probably time to do something else in my life. And then the world blew up, as we all remember. So I stuck around for an extra year until things calmed down, and then left. I went to Brazil for a few years. Started a rip-off of Chipotle, a burrito place. Built that up to around 7 stores and realized that I wasn't a fast food guy, so I sold that. And then my parents, who I kind of set up in a house in Sun Lakes, south of town, they were beginning to have some health issues. So, as some of you may know, health issues go up and they go down. But as long as I was close to them in the down times, they're able to stay in their own homes. And so my beautiful wife from Brazil, Anne, agreed to move here with me, and we live around the corner from them now. Yes, sir.
اگر خواستید یک قسمتی ترجمه بشه بگید. No, I'm just telling you, if they want anything translated, just raise their hand and I will translate it for them.
And if there are questions, one hand. If you speak slower, 2 hands. Okay.
So once you're
sure.
There's at least one person that would like to translate, so once you're done with the intro, then I'll just give it a brief.
Okay, and then I've been practicing law now for about 5 years. So do that.
خب ایشون یه به اصطلاح کارنامه خیلی بزرگی دارن که قبلا توی وال استریت کار میکردن، توی مؤسسه‌های مختلف. کارشون خیلی سخت و زیاد بود. تصمیم گرفتن یه خورده زندگیشون عوض بکنن و میان توی قسمت وکالت درجه میگیرن، توی برزیل میرن یه مدت اونجا زندگی میکنن، فکر کنم خانومشون اونجا میت میکنن، درسته؟ خانومشون اونجا میت میکنن و الان اومدن اونجا پدر مادرشون توی شهر هستن.
Our topic today is Estate Planning 101. We have a roadmap here. I don't think we're going to get through it all in the time allotted. I know some people have to leave early, that's fine. There are these little flyers that we have that kind of detail the basics. If anybody wants, I know I was in a lawyer's office yesterday, they charge $375 an hour for the introductory meeting. We'd be happy to know we don't do that. We do free initial consultations. We're happy to come in and chat. If I'm not the right lawyer for you, I will refer you to someone who is. So think of me as your Google for law practice. In our roadmap, we're going to try to get through an introduction to estate planning, what a will is, what a trust is. If we have time at the end, we'll also talk about long-term care, which is a very big issue and will probably be the thing that bankrupts most people 50 and over unless they're planning for it. Okay.
So should I translate that very quick?
Please.
ایشون میگن که آفیسشون میتونید برید مجانی، خیلی از وکیلای پول میخوان و اگر شما میخواید مثلا مشاورت و روی چی میشه به فارسی؟ وصیت‌نامه اگه بخواید یا استیت پلنینگ که مثلا چطوری بتونید اون درآمدتون و چیزایی که دارید جدا بکنید. میگن توی امریکا خیلی مهمه که این کار رو جلو انجام بدید و خیلی هستن که این کارا رو نکردن و ورشکست میشن چون جلو بدونن.
Okay. So just a couple of brief definitions to introduce the topic. The first is what is an estate when we talk about estate planning. Very simply, an estate is everything that you own. Okay? And people who have debts against you can make a claim on that estate after you pass away. All right.
Should I say that? Should I say it?
Sure.
قسمت اول به زبان انگلیسی میگن estate. فارسیش نمیدونم چی میشه ولی معنیش اینه که اصولا ارزشی که شما داری، فرض کنید شما $10,000 کل ثروتی که شما داری، این ثروت یه جوری باید اینو میتونی حمایتش کنی اینجا، وگرنه اگر حمایت نکنی ممکنه دولت یا کسای دیگه اینو کسایی که شما میخواین شاید نرسه. به اون میگن استیت، ثروت شما.
Okay. And if you don't mind, given the time constraints, I'm probably going to skip ahead.
Okay.
I have 130 slides, so I'm not going to. And very briefly, an estate plan is essentially putting together a legal strategy to deal with your estate in an orderly way. That includes not only making sure your loved ones know how to take care of you while you're alive and happy, but also when you're alive and incapacitated, you're unable to make decisions for yourself, and then after you're gone.
In a way I said this, این شما یه پلان میذاری، مثلا یه فرمای کد میکنید، فرمای قانونی که نشون میده که چطوری از این ثروت شما باید استفاده بشه و حمایت بشه بر طبق اون چیزی که شما خواستید. یه خورده با وصیت‌نامه فرق میکنه حالت قانونی بفرمایید.
And there are two really critical things we need to understand after you know about the definitions, and that is how stuff transfers. And the first thing we hear about is probate. People have heard of that term? Yeah? Okay. So probate, if you don't know, is the legal proceeding to transfer property that you pass away with if it's in your own name, right? And how that property transfers to the next person. It may be heirs that are by default. It may be beneficiaries that you name in your will or your trust, which we'll get to later.
یکی از این مدرک اسمش هست پروبیت به زبان انگلیسی که این مدرک قانونی هست. بر طبق چیزی که تو اون مدرک قانونی نوشته شده، شما اگر میخواین فرزندانتون ثروت بهش برسه یا میخواید دوستتون یا دختر خالتون اونجا هر چی بذارید همون باید انجام داده بشه. مثل همون فکر کنم میشه وصیت‌نامه خودش.
I know people at the Persian Cultural Center like YouTube videos. So what we tried to do was put together a list of very common questions. And these are 2 and 3 minute videos just introducing things if you want to know more about that. clf.com/videos.
یه سری ویدیوهای کوچولو تو تهیه کردن که اینجا لیستش هست، بعدا ما اینو واسه همه میفرستم. شما میتونید برید اینجا رو یوتیوب توضیح داده 1 دقیقه 2 دقیقه که مثلا لیوینگ ویل چیه، وصیت‌نامه چیه، توبه چیه و پاور آف اترنی چی هستش.
I'm not an actor, the videos are terrible. I'm actually embarrassed by them, but my wife makes me keep them. So, a lot of times I see a lot of lawyers who are doing these presentations and they talk like lawyers. And I can get into the nitty-gritty, but sometimes I find examples with real families are easier, and we can strip away the legal talk, and let's just say what happens. So why consider estate planning? And let's talk about a tale of 2 different families. Okay.
حالا میخوان این برنامه رو به حالت 2 تا قصه براتون توضیح بدن که به جایی که خیلی بخوان به اصطلاح حالت قانونی صحبت بکنن 2 داستان براتون تعریف میکنن. فکر کنم یه داستان نشون میده یه شخصی که جلو برنامه‌ریزی کرده، یه داستان یه شخصی که برنامه‌ریزی نکرده.
Okay. So here's 2 families, one on the left and one on the right. The first family is a husband and wife, Albert and Betty, and they have the I Love You estate plan. Okay? And about half of the people or more in the country have this plan. Does anybody know what the I Love You estate plan is?
No?
Okay, the I Love You estate plan is, my spouse and I have been happily married for 20 years. Survivor gets half, or gets everything. And then the last of us to pass away, the kids get everything. So we're not going to pay a lawyer to do this for us. Right? They just hope for the best because they have a solid marriage. That's a very, very, very common plan. That's A and B here. That's their plan. They just trust it'll all work out, and they've got good kids. B over here, this is Charlie. Charlie has no estate plan. He's only got a couple $1,000s. He's single and unmarried. He had a child from a previous relationship, and that little black line around it means that she passed away at a very young age. And she left a granddaughter. And the granddaughter's got some problems. She's got a dependency issue, a bad boyfriend, kind of all these things that we don't want. We hope she grows out of it, maybe not. But these are the 2 situations right here.
Good. So just summarize that.
Sure.
This is actually good. یه خانواده هستن که یه زن و شوهر هستن که میگم ما اصلا احتیاج نداره چیزی بنویسیم، ما هم دیگه رو دوست داریم. اگه من مردم به تو میرسه پول، اگه تو مردی به من میرسه، اگه جفتمون مردیم به بچه ها میرسه. این کیس اوله. اون یکی دیگه یه آقایی هستش که مجرده ولی یه بچه داره از یه خانم سابق که اون بچهش فوت کرده ولی بچهش گرندداترش مثلا نوش خب زنده هستش ولی زیاد زندگی جالبی نداره. مثلا با خیلی آدمای عجیب و غریب رفت آمد میکنه، کسایی که خود سوال دارن.
Okay. So, and here's the assets, right? This family, they've got a decent sized amount of savings. Gentleman over here doesn't have much at all. In both cases, they don't really see a need to do any estate planning. So, with no formal estate plan, there's something in Arizona called the laws of intestacy. And this is essentially, if you have no will, you have no trust, you have no plan, every state has adopted the laws of intestacy, and the state will essentially put an estate plan on you when you pass away.
Okay.
Okay.
So یه خانواده زن و شوهر بود، $1,000,000 ثروتشون بود، اون یکی دیگه $3,000 و ایشون گفتن که اگر توی آریزونا و همه ایالت‌های دیگه اگر شما یه وصیت‌نامه قانونی نداشته باشید بعد اون ایالت تصمیم می‌گیره که با پول شما چیکار کنه.
So the $1 million that this family had, Albert passes away. So we are what's called a community property state, meaning the spouses share everything they created together. So Albert's estate consists of $500,000, and Betty's estate consists of $500,000. So the I Love You estate plan, my spouse gets everything, well, that's what happens, okay? Specifically, the $500,000 goes to Betty. And after that, Betty now has $1 million. We have a dash line there because they were married and they're no longer married, and he's deceased with this black line. Okay.
So توی اون زن و شوهر که بودن شوهر فوت میکنه و بر طبق قوانین آریزونا نصف ثروتشون که میشه 500 تا میرسه به خانومه.
Yeah. Now, Betty meets Charlie, right? And, you know, Cupid's arrow strikes. We all want to fall in love, if we're not already. And they wind up getting married. So far, so good, right? Mom's happy, Grandpa's happy. This is a good thing to fall in love.
حالا این خانومی که شوهرش فوت کرد اون آقایی که مثلا $2,000 ارزشش بود اینا عاشق هم دیگه میشن و ازدواج میکنن.
Now, nobody's done any estate planning, and unfortunately, on their honeymoon, they're having a really good time, and Betty has a heart attack, and she doesn't live. Right.
و اینا ازدواج میکنن تو ماه عسل خانم بتی فوت میکنن.
So we don't have to translate. Here's the question that comes to everyone's mind. Right? Well, under the Arizona laws of intestacy, the spouse, even if you've only been married for one night, gets half. And your children from previous relationships, or relationships plural, will share the other half. And what that means is, one half, so $500,000 goes to Charlie, and then the other half is divided among their children who are 20, 19, and 18 years old. So at the end of this, the 3 kids and their parents who worked hard, saved everything, they did everything right. Each of the 3 children is left with $167,000. And the husband of one night, God bless him, was a pretty good marriage. Right? He's very popular now, and yeah, scored. But let's continue this on, okay? So let's say a month later, after a broken heart, Charlie passes away. Any bets? So yeah, what we're left with is the granddaughter over here, who's smoking pot in the apartment, not doing much, bad boyfriend. The granddaughter winds up getting $500,000, and this family that's completely organized is cheated. And that's the law. That's what the law is. And I wish this were a hypothetical example. It's not. It's actually a real case. Yes, sir.
Their money goes there too?
No.
Oh.
The result is
I got you.
that instead of them getting that $500,000, it's going to the daughter who is probably going to squander it on bad things and be self-destructive.
اتفاق بعدی که افتاد اون آقایی که خانمش فوت کرد بعد خودش فوت میکنه و تمام اون پولایی که از این خانم به این رسید 7,000,000 میره واسه اون نوش که زیاد نوه پولی نیستش مثلا کارهای بد میکنه ولی اون بچه هایی که تمام خانواده همیشه رو حساب کار کردن پولاشون جمع کردن بهشون نفری 160 میرسه این نوهی که فقط میشینه خونه سیگار میکشه و پات میکشه $500,000 بهش میرسه.
So the I Love You estate plan, it's great as long as you're alive.
و این داستان
But it
حقیقت
can
داره.
be catastrophic after one passes away. If I make a weird face, I threw out my back yesterday. So if it looks like I have a weird face of pain on it,
پشتشون هرت کردن
it's because
پشتشون
it does.
دیسکشون رو هرت کردن برای همین.
I have a question.
Yes.
So for who doesn't have any estate and they're married, they all going according to I Love You estate plan. If they don't go and plan a specific plan for their marriage, right? They all included in that kind of estate or no?
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understand your question.
You know, for example, I'm married.
Yes.
If I don't go and, you know, plan for a estate plan, are we included in that type of estate plan?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, if you're married, if you're married and children are from that marriage, your husband would get everything you have. Or if you had children from a different relationship, then your current husband gets half, and children from whatever other relationships divide half. Does that answer your question? Okay. So here's another example. This is another family. They have an I Love You estate plan as well. Perfect marriage. They have 2 sons and 2 daughters. They have a modest estate. You know, they're a younger family, and they've got a house, a couple of cars, furnishings, some home savings. Okay. And let's describe the family a little bit, because different families have different dynamics, especially among the children. Right. So the first child is 29 years old. He's in his last year of residency in internal medicine. So, yeah, this is internal medicine. I mean, this is the dream child, right? Their second child is also a dream child. He's 25. He's very mature, very responsible. College wasn't his track, so he started in a plumbing apprentice when he was 18, right after high school. And then after 2 years, he started his own business. Right? He went from an old truck to now he has 5 trucks. He has a staff. He's doing really, really well, and his parents are very, very proud of him. Child 3 is kind of the issue in the family, all right? So child 3 is 19. She's impulsive, she's immature, she's not responsible. She struggled to graduate high school. She's got a terrible boyfriend the parents hate. And, you know, she's kind of smoking pot and drinking and spending time with reckless friends that the parents don't like. So the question, can you translate that one, please? That's
Yeah.
important.
این یه خانواده دیگه هستن که 400,000 دلار ثروتشون رو 4 تا بچه دارن. پسر اول و دوم پسر خوبی دارن، یکیشون داره دکتر میشه، یکیشون لوله کشه ولی خب بیزنس خودش زده خیلی موفقه. فرزند سومش این دختری که اصلا توی مسیر خوبی پیش نرفته، مواد میزنه، مسئله بد داره، حرف گوش نمیده، درس نمیده.
So another question is, if something were to happen to the parents, and this girl's over 18 years old, so she will inherit, is whatever she inherits put her at risk of developing dependencies, drugs, alcohol, subsidizing reckless behavior. And then we have a fourth child, sister. She's 16. She's a sophomore in high school. Perfect student, athlete, musician, singer, chess champion, who idolizes her big sister. Okay? Now, let's look again at this, all right? Under the Arizona laws of intestacy, they're married, so each child would inherit a quarter of this if something happened. So let's say both parents pass away. That could be in a car accident. It could be one after the other in quick succession where there's no remarriage. There are a lot of circumstances where that could happen, and it does happen. So each child inherits a fourth. The responsible child is about to start his medical practice. Then the plumber is going to put it in the business. The 19-year-old, who's probably shouldn't be getting a hold of this money. And then the 16-year-old would be held in a custody account until her 18th birthday. With proper estate planning, what we're able to do is defer these ages, right? Or defer them a long, long, long time. We've all heard of trust fund babies. But, so when looking at this, we have to ask ourselves the question, we have 2 responsible kids here, but what about the one that's not responsible, or the one that's too young to really appreciate that what the irresponsible older sister's doing is probably not a great way to live life.
فرزند چهارمشون یه دختری که دبیرستان میره، خیلی درس خونه، خیلی مسئول هستش، ورزش، همه کار خوب انجام میده. تنها مسئله‌ای که داره اینه که عاشق خواهرش هست، همون خواهری که زیاد مسئله خوب پیش نمیده. بعد اگر این زنش رو فوت بکنن، نفر 1/4 رو میگیرن، یعنی هر نفر 100 تا. با فرزند اول و دوم مسئله خوب دارن طی میکنن، اون اوکیه. دختر سوم چون مواد میزنه اینا معلوم نیست کجا باید ثبت چی کار بکنه، و دختر چهارم هم چون هنوز 18 سالش نشده، این پول دولت اینو نگه می‌داره تا این دختر بشه 18 سالش.
So with proper estate planning, when you defer the transfer of wealth, these kids have an opportunity to grow out of the recklessness and mature, right? They have to go get a job, they have to go to school, they have to develop a trade. If $100,000 hits the bank account for an 18-year-old and a 19-year-old with problems, it may be irreparable. They just can't recover from the mistakes they're going to make that money subsidizes. So that's another reason why we do estate planning. It's really for our children.
I should transfer this is important. یه کاری که وکیلای مثل دیوید میتونن انجام بدن، توی این فرم وصیت‌نامه میتونن بنویسن که این پولا در این سن این بچه‌ها میتونن اینو بگیرن. اگر احساس میکنن دختر سومشون حالا نخواهد مسئول نخواهد شد، میگن این دختر نمیتونه پول بگیره تا سن 30 سالگی. خب یا دخترش میگه مثلا الان های اسکول هستش، 18 سالش، شما $100,000 بدی بچه 18 ساله هر چقدر هم فهمیده باشه نمیدونه باهاش چی کار بکنه. طبق قانون آریزونا به محضی که شما 18 سالت شد یا اگه شده باشه این پول رو به شما میدن، هیچ بانک دیگه هیچ شرطی نخواهد داشت.
Okay. So next, let's talk about how property transfers when you pass away. What's the actual process of that? And that involves, when we're managing that process, involves the estate planning attorney, right? And so we sit down and we discuss, we learn about your family, your business, your interests, the values you have. And then we say, okay, among all these possible things, what's really most important to you? And we're going to find the things that we need to solve, and every family is a little different. Some of these things we can manage, and some we can't, so we just have to plan around and accept. And then lastly, we implement the estate plan that we come up with. Okay? So the first thing is, when we plan for passing away, there are two ways that property is transferred to other people when we pass away. Right? The first is going to be a court order, and the second is going to be a private contract. And really, when everything gets boiled down, this is all there is. All right? Now, court order might be, in this context, probate. We take assets in your name, we go to a judge, and then the judge makes the call. Another way is a court order from a civil action. Somebody gets sued. A quiet title action is if there's a disagreement over who owns property. Basically, the judge decides where it goes. In a private contract, it can be a handshake, right? I'm going to buy your car, if I can walk to it. Right? We just made a contract that's enforceable in court. We have plenty of witnesses. Okay. An insurance contract is an example of a private contract, right? I pay $500 a month, and if I die, such and such gets $1 million. Private contract. Purchase agreement for a house. It's a private contract. So a probate proceeding, everybody asked, other states, I know we have some people from California in here, East Coast is particularly bad. The probate process in Arizona actually isn't that bad. It's relatively inexpensive. A lot of people come into my office, they've seen other attorneys, they've been to kind of the presentations, and people scare them and say, you absolutely have to do a trust. That's not the case in Arizona. Right? A trust is a little more expensive up front. It's generally much cheaper in the back end. But in the back end, you know, it's somebody else is dealing with it. So I don't want to scare people. If somebody tries to scare you into saying probate is this terrible thing, it's really not, and you should kind of question what their motivations are, what they're trying to sell you on the other side. Generally, it'll take about 6 months if it's a simple estate, maybe 6 to 9 if it's a little more complex. This assumes it's uncontested. One of the biggest issues here is this is a public proceeding. Anybody can read any document that's filed for it because they're all published electronically. And anybody can show up at the courthouse and raise their hand and say, you know what? Mr. Basiri over here promised me his car, and I've got this arrangement with him, and people can start complaining. In the trust agreement, or simply a trust, that's actually a private contract. Right? A private contract, property passes between the private parties or the beneficiaries they designate. That does not go to court, it's not filed. Someone could pass away, and you may never know, and all of a sudden you get a check in the mail if you're a beneficiary. It happens. Yes, sir.
All these are permanent, or has a limit time to get it expired?
The trust, you mean?
Yeah.
There are hundreds of different types of trusts, okay? What we talk about at this kind of basic level of estate planning that we'll get into in a bit is called the revocable living trust. While you're alive and you have capacity to make decisions, with that type of a trust, you can change anything you want, but it doesn't expire. Once you do it, it's good. But then you can change it as your circumstances change, your children are older, your financial circumstances change. So you can change things over time, but it doesn't expire automatically. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I couldn't understand. When you said that there's a shake hand and someone goes to the court and said, please shake my hand, shook my hand and tell me whatever I have goes to you. Does it have a value?
In Arizona, an oral contract is valid. So if we make an oral contract in Arizona and I shake your hand, you agree to sell me your car for $10 when you pass away. I have witnesses here, I can go enforce that.
In Arizona.
So let me translate that very quickly.
Well, let me rephrase that, right?
Sure.
You can try to enforce it, let me put that.
No, not just that. I was going to just cover the whole
Sure.
last 10 minutes because I think it's
Okay.
important. اگه شما برید پیش آفیس آقای دیوید میشنم با شما صحبت میکنم ببینم شرایط شما دقیقا چی هستش. خب شرایط هر کسی فرق میکنه. بعد وقتی مشخص شده شرایط چی هست، دو جور مختلف شما میتونید وصیت‌نامه رو بنویسید. یکی وصیت‌نامه‌ای که باید بره دادگاه و اون موقع هستش که آقای قاضی تصمیم میگیره که چقدر باید داده بشه و تصمیم اون خواهد بود و اگه بره دادگاه، چون دادگاه رفته این تمام مدارک همه جا هست، همه میتونن بگیرن. یه طور دیگه هستش که این خصوصی هستش یک کانترکت بین شما و دیگری و این لازم نیست دادگاه بره، به اون میگن تراست و حالا میخوام راجع به اون صحبت کنم.
When people come into court and they start making claims like that, it's called a contested estate. And that's when this 6 months